The restaurant was too perfect for what they were about to do to me. White linen tablecloths, crystal that caught the low golden light of late afternoon, the scent of truffle butter and grilled branzino drifting like expensive perfume. Everything curated to look like love. Penelope's smile was stretched so tight I could almost hear the Botox cracking. "You're going to love the new place, Mom," she sang, lashes fluttering like trapped moths. "They have knitting classes." Charles nodded, the obedient nod of a man who had practiced it in the mirror. Leo stared at the bread basket as though the rolls might reveal the exact resale value of my downtown condo. I smiled back, small and pleasant, the way a cat smiles at birds it has already decided to kill. Inside me something cracked clean in two. They had chosen the most elegant restaurant in the city for my emotional execution. "Mom," Charles began, voice syrupy with concern he did not possess, "we've all been worried. You've seemed confused lately." Confused? The word landed like a scalpel. I had faked 3 small memory lapses in the past month, just enough to test them. Asked what day it was twice in one afternoon. Pretended I couldn't remember where I'd parked the car. Tiny breadcrumbs to see who would follow them straight to the oven. They had sprinted. Dr. Miller, who had never examined me in his life, had apparently declared that a controlled environment would be best. Leo delivered the lie without blinking. Penelope reached across the table and squeezed my age-spotted hand with fingers that felt like cold plastic. "The knitting classes are very therapeutic," she cooed. "You could make tablecloths, scarves, useful things, useful things." While they carved up the empire I had built from $5,000 in pure grit, I would sit in a vinyl chair that smelled of bleach and make doilies. I let them talk, let them lay out the schedule, the brochures, the family decision that had already been made without me. "When would the move be?" I asked, voice steady as winter glass. "Tomorrow," Charles answered. Charles, too fast. "We've taken care of everything. You just have to sign a few papers." A silence thick as congealing blood fell over the table. "And my properties?" I asked softly. They looked like children caught reaching into the cookie jar. Only the jar was my life's work, and the jar was my life's work, and the cookies were worth millions. "Don't worry about that, Mom," Leo said, eyes sliding away. "We'll handle everything. It's too much responsibility for you now." Too much responsibility. The same properties I had bought sight unseen during recessions, renovated with cash, while pregnant, while widowed, while working 60-hour weeks, suddenly too complicated for the woman who had created them. That night I pretended to swallow the 2 white pills Penelope pressed into my palm with theatrical tenderness. I tucked them into the lining of my bra and waited. At 11 o'clock their voices drifted up the stairs like smoke under a door. "The beach house alone is 300 easy," Charles whispered. "Downtown condo 200. Maybe 250 if we stage it right," Leo added. "And the main house?" Penelope's champagne giggle floated up. "400 once she's settled." Settled? A euphemism for buried alive. I lay in the dark and listened to them divide me while my heart was still beating. They never noticed the tiny red light of the recorder I had hidden in the chandelier the week before. At 5 a.m., while they slept off their victory champagne, I rose, dressed in my best black St. John knit suit, took the single suitcase I needed, and left the house I had paid for without looking back. The taxi smelled of pine air freshener, and the driver's mercy. He asked no questions when a 72-year-old woman handed him $1,000 in hundreds and said, "Airport, please. One way." On the plane I closed my eyes and heard my mother's voice from half a century ago. "Margaret, never trust anyone completely. Not even the children you carried under your heart. Blood can turn to poison, but dignity is forever." I landed in Seabrook Shores, Florida, where no one had thought to look for me in 30 years. The little yellow house with the green shutters was waiting exactly as I had left it. Sheets over the furniture, salt in the air, and the faint ghost of my own younger laughter in the walls. The key still fit. The door side open like a woman who had been holding her breath for decades. On the kitchen table lay a single sheet of paper in shaky, but unmistakable handwriting. "Mrs. Whitlock, I have watered the porch ferns every Sunday for 29 years. Welcome home. Eliza." I had not cried in 40 years. I cried then. Eliza arrived 20 minutes later, white-haired now, but with the same steady brown eyes that had watched me sign my first closing in 1978. She held me like a daughter while I shook. "They fired me," she said simply. Said it was an unnecessary expense. I knew what that meant. So I came here every month, dusted, paid the taxes from the envelope you left in the flour tin, and waited. She led me to the back bedroom that had quietly become an office. A wall safe, combination my late husband Richard's birthday, stood open. Inside, deeds to 6 properties my children had never known existed. Offshore accounts in my maiden name. A will they had never seen. And a thick folder marked Hope Center in my own handwriting. My real life, hidden in plain sight for 30 years. Eliza made coffee while I read my own plans back to myself. Plans drawn when I was still young enough to believe my children would never become predators. A residence where older women could live with dignity instead of disgrace. Gardens, art studios, medical care, beauty salons, libraries. A place where confused was not a death sentence pronounced by greedy heirs. Everything was permitted, funded, and waiting, only for the woman who owned it to come claim it. I picked up the burner phone Eliza handed me and dialed a number I had memorized 5 years earlier. Margaret. George Cromwell answered on the second ring, voice rich with relief. I've been expecting your call. Are you ready to come home and ruin their lives? More than ready, I said. Set the meeting for tomorrow at 10. And bring the popcorn. The next morning my children gathered in my living room like crows on a wire. Charles in the gray suit I had bought him for graduation day. Leo fidgeting with the napkin he would soon tear to shreds. Penelope in emerald silk, I had gifted her the Christmas before she decided I was senile. And my brother Tobias, smelling blood in the water, grinning like the scavenger he had always been. They had spread forged transfer documents across my heirloom dining table, like a sacrificial offering. The doorbell rang. My own doorbell, and I rang it myself. Penelope opened it. The progression across her face was priceless. Shock, terror, rapid calculation, and finally the same plastic smile. Margaret, we were so worried. We called the police. I was thinking, I said, stepping inside, and making a few decisions. Behind me walked George Cromwell, briefcase in one hand, Eliza in the other. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Good morning, Cromwell said pleasantly to the room at large. I'm Mrs. Whitlock's counsel, specializing in elder financial abuse. Shall we begin? Charles tried to stand. His knees betrayed him. Cromwell set a digital recorder on the table and pressed play. Charles's own voice filled the room. Let's just hope the old bat dies soon. I'm tired of pretending I care. Leo's voice next. All we need is a doctor to say she's incompetent. After that we take everything. Penelope's champagne giggle. Put her in the cheapest home we can find. She'll never know the difference. You could have heard a pin drop on the Persian rug I had bought in Marrakesh in 1987. Cromwell smiled the smile of a man who had waited years for this moment. Mrs. Whitlock has been in full possession of her faculties the entire time. She has medical reports, recordings, and a net worth you underestimated by roughly $3.5 million. I watched their faces collapse in real time. I let the silence stretch until it screamed. Then I laid out the new reality. My true estate, $5.2 million, not $1.50. 6 unknown properties, international accounts, a living, breathing Hope Center already under construction on land they had never known I owned. And the forged documents were shredded in front of them. And finally the ultimatum. 5 years, I said. You will work at the Hope Center. Manual labor, resident care, whatever is needed. You will learn what it feels like to serve women you once planned to discard. If after 5 years you have become decent human beings, we will discuss money. If not, you will be prosecuted for attempted fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. And you will still get nothing. Charles tried to argue family loyalty. I reminded him of the $160,000 in tuition, loans, and medical bills I had paid without ever being repaid. Leo tried tears. I reminded him of the $100,000 for his son's leukemia treatment, and the 2 years he lived rent-free in my house. Penelope tried indignation. I reminded her that I had welcomed her when her own mother had not, and that she was about to drug me into silence. Tobias tried to slink out the back door and found it locked. 24 hours, Cromwell said. Decide. They chose the 5 years. Day 1 they arrived in clothes that had never seen dirt. Mike, the foreman, pointed to a mountain of broken concrete. Move it by hand. Welcome to the rest of your lives. I watched Charles lift his first chunk and nearly rupture himself. I watched Penelope break 2 acrylic nails and cry without sound. I watched Leo pretend his hands weren't bleeding. And I felt nothing but the clean, cold satisfaction of justice. But justice. 5 years later, the Hope Center is no longer a dream on paper. It is laughter in gardens, watercolor classes at noon, a beauty salon where arthritic hands are soaked in warm paraffin and told they are still beautiful. Charles runs the kitchen and remembers every resident's birthday down to the flavor of cake they prefer. Leo has his certification in geriatric physical therapy and cries openly when Mercedes takes her first 10 steps unaided. Penelope runs the salon and the oral history project. Her own voice cracks when she reads the memoirs aloud to new arrivals. They have not taken a single day off in 4.5 years. On the morning their sentence ended, they walked into my office wearing the same soft, worn Hope Center t-shirts they had been issued on day 1. "We want to stay," Charles said. "Not because we have to," Leo added, "but because this is the most important thing we will ever do," Penelope finished. I looked at the 3 people my children had become and felt my heart crack open in an entirely new place. I tore up the will that would have given them $500,000 each. Instead, I handed them a new one. Charles, Executive Director. Leo, Director of Rehabilitation. Penelope, Director of Resident Wellness. Salary modest but dignified. The remaining $4.8 million to seed 9 more Hope Centers across the country. They cried then. I let them. That night 200 women and 3 repentant children raised glasses of non-alcoholic sparkling cider to toast the day none of us had seen coming. I walked the moonlit garden alone afterward, roses heavy with scent, stars bright above the rooftops I had paid for with my own sweat when I was younger than they are now. Richard's voice drifted to me across the years. The real legacy is not a monument. It is a map. I had drawn the map. They are walking it now, barefoot and grateful, carrying lanterns for every woman coming behind them. And if you visit any Hope Center in the coming decades, you will find 3 directors who answer to residents first and to money never. You will find my name on the dedication stone out front, but you will not find it inside, because inside are the living, laughing, painting, dancing proof that a woman can be betrayed, rise from her own grave, and still choose grace. I turned 77 last month. I have never felt younger. Because vengeance, it turns out, is a poor second to the fierce, unstoppable beauty of redemption. And I, Margaret Whitlock, once almost buried alive by my own blood, have built a garden where no woman will ever be buried again. The end.